we do from here, except, keep screaming, talking about everything he's doing, the people that he's bringing in, shouting. I think our shout.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
There's been movement in Washington, D.C., in New York on Fifth Avenue, as Donald Trump has reportedly named 3 people to cabinet positions. The first appointment, retired Army Lieutenant General, claimed that political correctness was at fault in the U.S. efforts against terrorism. He also called Islam a cancer and argued that fearing Muslims is rational.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law. Lock her up. That's right. That's right. Lock her up.
He seems nice. Donald Trump's second announcement was his pick for Attorney General.
And lawyers, guns, and money. This shit has hit the fan.
Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, who was the first U.S. senator to endorse Trump, has opposed nearly every immigration bill that's come before the Senate in the past 2 decades that has included a path to citizenship. And in 1986, a Senate committee denied Sessions a federal judgeship. His former colleagues testified that Sessions used the N-word and joked about the KKK, saying he thought they were, quote, okay, until he learned that they smoked marijuana.
I am not a racist. I am not insensitive to blacks. I have supported civil rights activity in my state. I have done my job with integrity, equality, and fairness for all.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Jeff. Now, since Sessions jumped on the Trump bandwagon early, Trump has always been nice to him. More on that in a moment. But first, the third appointment was announced Friday morning.
Secret agent man, secret agent man. They've given you a number. I know they take away your.
Congressman Mike Pompeo of Kansas has been named and accepted the position of CIA director. Swept into office during the 2010 Tea Party wave, Pompeo is said to have had an inside line on the gig, as he's a close ally of VP-elect Mike Pence. But the cabinet position generating the most buzz and more potential names than any other is Secretary of State. It seems that John Bolton, the neocon who penned a New York Times op-ed titled, "To Stop Iran's Bomb, Bomb Iran," has been taken out of contention. That's good. But the second name floated for Secretary of State is Rudy Giuliani. But his business ties are a major red flag. Not only has his firm been entangled with the government of Qatar and the Canadian company that's trying to build the Keystone XL pipeline, he's also given paid speeches for as much as $200,000 each, from which he took in over $11 million in 2006 alone. He often made extravagant demands in return for agreeing to make a speech, including that the private plane that flew him to the engagement be a certain size, all while he dared to criticize Hillary Clinton for her speeches. Oh, there's so much more, but...
Bye, baby, goodbye. Bye, baby, goodbye.
Although not so fast on this bye-bye, so long, farewell, because according to some, Rudy has his choice of positions in the Trump administration. Others allegedly being considered for Secretary of State.
Knew a girl named Nikki.
South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who was one of Trump's biggest critics during the campaign.
I will not stop until we fight a man that chooses not to disavow the KKK. That is not a part of our party. That's not who we want as president. We will not allow that in our country.
Prompting this response from the president-elect.
She's very weak on illegal immigration, and, I've known that for a long time, but she's weak on illegal immigration, and she certainly has no trouble asking me for campaign contributions.
Nikki Haley met with Trump on Thursday. Another name emerged as a Secretary of State contender.
If Donald Trump's plans were ever implemented, the country would sink into prolonged recession. His bankruptcies have crushed small businesses and the men and women who work for them. He inherited his business. He didn't create it. Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud.
Mitt is a failed candidate. He failed. He failed horribly. The third debate, and that was a race. And I backed Mitt Romney. He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees. He was begging.
Alrighty then. I can't wait to see what next week brings.
And that's today's dose of What's News, written and produced by Nicole Sandler. Hear the Nicole Sandler Show live, Tuesday through Friday, 3 to 4 Eastern, 12 to 1 Pacific, at NicoleSandler.com and on the Progressive Voices Network.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
It's Friday, you bastards.
You know, girls, it's great to live in a democracy today. Where freedom is everywhere.
Oh, God.
But girls, we often take this freedom for granted.
Really?
Freedom of speech.
Yes.
Freedom of thought.
What?
And freedom of action.
Oh, my God.
But you know, girls, just because a bunch of men signed that Declaration of Independence in 1776 doesn't mean that freedom was for men alone.
No.
Oh, no, you take Tom Jefferson.
Okay.
Ben Franklin.
You know.
John Hancock.
Adorable.
There's a hell of a guy for you right there.
Very cute.
All these men had wives.
Yes.
They probably had a few broads on the side, too.
At the same time.
These women wanted freedom just as much as their men did.
Mm-hmm.
But, gals, I wonder, do we?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's time that we women thought about it a bit.
A lot.
Hell, I think it's time we did something about it. So come on, fellow females of the 20th century.
21st!
Be glad that you're an American.
Oh, God, help me.
Your freedom.
Freedom!
Stand at attention.
Oh.
Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance.
And
do it while you can. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh. All right. You're going to have to sober up, America. I mean it. Sober the hell up. Smarten up. Get off the drugs. No more fun. It's done. It's over. Now it's time to pay a freaking attention. This cabinet is taking sort of a good functioning government and turning it into total bedlam. Oh my God. We were probably better off with chaos than with what Trump has planned for us. This is freaking me out. Okay, everybody said, wait, we don't know who he is. I said, we don't know who he is. I really, we don't know. You people out there chose a man who you know nothing about. You don't know if he's got, ties to Russia. You don't know if he's got ties to China, except for the lawsuit that he just won, where he was asking, can I brand myself there? Can I slap my name on buildings there? Because they're taking his name off buildings here. Did you see that? People do not want to live in a Trump tower. The people who pay the big money to live in the towers in New York, they don't want to live wrapped up inside of an ethno-nationalist envelope. So they said, please take the name off the building. Petitions were signed. Yesterday I saw videos on the Facebook. They were taking the signs down saying, bye-bye, Trump. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Trump. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. That can't happen soon enough for me. All right, so we were all, in agreement that we really didn't know who he was. The people who voted for him said they thought they knew who Hillary was because, the fake news was telling them who she was. And every time Hillary was on the TV, you have to admit, this was a real perception problem. Every time the Hillary was on the TV lately in the last 2 years, she was either testifying in front of a Benghazi committee with the likes of Mr. Pompeo, right? She was either doing that or she was seen as somebody who flouted some sort of national security obligation to protect her personal emails from Huma Abedin, a Saudi spy, or whatever the freaking fake news was telling you. And she looked like she was in an Ida Lupino movie. Now, only the Serious 40 Movies fans, the freaks out there that love the black and white the way I do, the way Mr. Leary does. Captain Leary to you. know who Ida Lupino was, but in Ida Lupino movie, she was either the warden in the prison or she was running from the law. I don't know why they stereotyped her that way, but she was a 40s actress, and Hillary started to look like she was in an Ida Lupino movie. That's just sad, but it's true. I love women in prison movies. Some people out there did not love them as much as I did. But Trump, for the last 14 years, was seen as a guy sitting in front of a big mahogany wood desk wearing a red tie, looking like a boss. And so you had this crazy perception inside of a country where no one reads a freaking newspaper, but they do read fake news. They do click on the... They do click on the gross yellow toenail that could be a sign of cancer. They do click on that. Right? Or, like your body's talking to you, here's signs of cancer. I'll tell you what the signs of cancer are. A tumor! Hello? Yes, I can say that. So, everybody was waiting. Everybody was kind of waiting, like, what would his cabinet look like? And who is he going to pick? And is it going to just be more crony capitalism? I mean, we obviously know there are a million lobbyists up there. There are lobbyists in the Department of, there's lobbyists in EPA, doing a transition. There's lobbyists in Health and Human Services. There's lobbyists in the Department of Education. There's everywhere there's lobbyists, So we thought, he's not draining the swamp. Well, guess what? He's not draining the swamp. Guess what? He's actually pouring the swamp into another vessel, the intelligence community. This is freaking frightening, okay? He's taking the swampiest of the swamp monsters, the leechiest of the leeches, the most biting, deadly, malaria-laden mosquitoes, and he's elevating them into awesome positions of federal power. Do you realize how many people will work for Jeff Sessions? Do you realize how many people will work for Mike Pompeo? You're talking 100,000 people. You have no idea of the awesome power of the government, and they're all getting embedded into this crazy lunatic administration that we are about to experience. And I just can't tell you enough. You need to organize, and that's why I'm telling you, smarten up. Lighten up on the booze, lighten up on the oxy, lighten up on whatever it is you do for lighten up on the pot too. And I know. Don't start with me. Don't. I'm just saying you need to be clear-minded. You need to be thoughtful. You need to be organized. You can't be, going, hey, let's organize. What was I talking about? No, can't do it. Can't have it. This is a time for vigilance. Truly it is. This is a time for resistance. This is a time for vigilance. You got Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. You got one of the most anti-civil rights members of Congress, a man whose entire focus in Congress was to gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And the Supreme Court did do it for him, and he praised it. This is what his entire goal has been. And of course, this was the first election that we have had post the gutting of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. This is the first election we have had in 50 years without the protection of the Civil Rights Act, of the Voting Rights Act. And look what happened. North Carolina, they had to be sued to open up the early voting. They had to go to court. Court is everything. Here's your assignment for the weekend, okay? Want to see a movie? Watch The Devil's Advocate. Right? You're going to have to suffer through a Keanu Reeves performance. I know. But Charlize Theron is just, amazing in that movie. Al Pacino is a little overacty in the movie, but the story is insane. And you will find out why they want the law. Why the law is the place where the devil wants to play. You'll find out. It's just the way that everybody gets to do what they want to do in a country that's supposed to be a country of laws, not men. So what do? They take these people who have disdain for the laws and they put them in charge of the laws. Listen, Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, National Security Advisor. By the way, that does not need confirmation from the Senate. That's the guy who's like in the ear of Donald Trump after every national security meeting, who will have the last word. And, Donald Trump is one of those guys where whoever gets the last word with him, that's what he does. And we know this because of the campaign. Okay, now that you can see who's been around him, and now that you're cogent, now that you're, paying attention, and now that you can see what everybody stood for. You know, Jeff Sessions, the most anti-immigration person in the history of the world. Okay, you've got Mike Flynn, the most anti-Muslim creature that was thrown out of the intelligence community because he was chaotic, because he disagreed, because, well, here, let me play a little Mike Flynn for you, because he wants the great clash of civilizations. These are some hawkish freaking people, by the way. These are people that want the Christian right to fight the Islamic world. They want the great clash of civilizations. They want World War III. They want it. They're going to position themselves to get it. There's very little opposition for fighting them now. You've got just about every... I will say this. Somebody sent me a really good email about how December 10th there's an election in Louisiana because it was a runoff. There's a runoff in Louisiana for another senator, for one more senator. And so on December 10th, there will be a runoff between a Democrat and a Republican there. And I would just beg you, because there's still one outstanding Senate seat. And if Democrats can win, we'll be within spitting distance of Republicans' majority in the Senate, okay? And it's important right now to be able to spit upon them. It's important to be within spitting distance of them. So the Louisiana election is December 10th. And even though I know Louisiana is a ruby red state, a lot of the people in Louisiana traditionally vote for whoever is the least corrupt. Now, you have to admit that's not an easy decision in Louisiana. But with a Democrat in that seat, the Senate would only be 51 GOP, 49 Dem, and there may be a Republican or two, like a Jim Jeffords, who think that taking health insurance away from millions of people or privatizing Medicare could be politically damaging. So you never know. We might be able to pull that off. So I'm just saying, okay, that's one way to, start organizing, reach out to your friends in Louisiana, start talking to them, tell them whatever. And if you're in Louisiana, spread the word, December 10th. Because usually in runoffs, people don't show up. But I mean, you got Mike Flynn for National Security Advisor. Okay, so here's the clash of civilizations he's angling for, and this is why he was kicked out of the DIA. I mean, this man wants the world to be at war based upon religion. So here you go.
Islam is a political ideology. It is a political ideology. It definitely hides behind this notion of it being a religion. And I have a very, very tough time because I don't see a lot of people screaming Jesus Christ with hatchets or machetes or
then you're not looking.
Shooting up clubs or hatcheting, literally axing families on a train. Or like they just killed a couple of police officers with a machete. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we have a problem. It's like cancer. Okay, I've gone through cancer in my own life. Okay, so it's like cancer. And it's like a malignant cancer, though, in this case. It has metastasized.
All cancer is malignant.
Like I just said, in the number of attacks in 22 countries in just the last 45 days, I mean, when I look back over the last, 10 years or 15 years of my life, and the things that I've seen and the things that I've witnessed against this very vicious threat.
Okay, so there you have it. Maybe he could be Surgeon General with his cancer diagnosis. It's a malignant cancer, of course. He knows nothing about what he speaks of. This man is just combative and he's rude and he has this desire to have a clash of civilizations and him to be the general that oversees it. Now, this is how I know that Michael Flynn makes crap up, okay? When you look at the Twitter feeds, okay, which is where people are getting their freaking news. Hello, Periscope watchers. Hi there. When you look at the Twitter feeds of Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, you would expect more than what you're going to see there. And also, you must look at his son's Twitter feed. Now, why his son? Why am I bringing the children into it? Well, his son is an adult, and he happens to be Michael Flynn's chief of staff. The chief of staff is the most important person in any political person's life. They run everything. They make sure that that candidate, sees what they want them to see, meets with who they want them to meet with, control the agenda, control the meetings, control the flow of information to and from that person. Chief of staff is the top guy in a political organization, whether it's a congressman, whether it's a senator, whether it's an agency head, whether it's the president of the United States. Okay, chief of staff. It's the biggest job there is. Michael Flynn is going to be splitting this job, NSA, chief of staff and CEO of the, I don't even know, they're creating jobs now, with Steve Bannon and his son. Okay, his son is the chief of staff. Okay, so the son of retired Army Lieutenant General Michael Flynn is a guy who tweets constantly fake news, conspiracy theories, expletive-filled posts, racially insensitive crap all over Twitter and Facebook. Now, CNN saw what we saw, and they went and they asked him about this stuff. His son is Michael Flynn, and his Twitter feed, he shared stories that said top Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin has a connection to the Muslim Brotherhood. He shared stories that said Senator Marco Rubio was a closeted homosexual who abused cocaine. He shared stories that had, really filthy words in it to attack any political opponent of Donald Trump. Now, this guy goes with our new national security advisor into the West Wing because he is his father's chief of staff and top aide, okay? He goes to all the events like this, every event that his father's been at, his son has been there too. He works for his father's consulting firm. Did you know General Flynn had a consulting firm? Did you know that? Yeah. Consulting firm. Lobby shop. Flynn Intel Group. It's like Rudy Giuliani's Intel Group, okay? So anyway, here's some of the tweets. You won't be able to find them. They've been deleted ever since CNN reached out to say, what the hell goes on your Twitter feed, mister? In a tweet from January, Flynn responded to a Vox story on Twitter about a whites-only dating site, and he wrote, at Vox.com, so African Americans can have BET TV, but whites can't have their own dating site? That tweet was deleted after CNN contacted him for comment. He also tweeted that minorities only voted for President Barack Obama because of his skin color. He wrote, unfortunately, only reason minorities voted for BO is color of his skin and not for the issues. That tweet was deleted after CNN contacted him saying, what the, really? This is what you do? He also shares unfounded conspiracy theories like the one claiming Hillary Clinton and President Obama would be tried for treason if Trump is elected. I don't know how fake that is. See, this is the thing. If I were Hillary Clinton and I was looking at Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General, like replacing Loretta Lynch with a philosophy that sounds a lot like Loretta's last name. Yeah, if I were her, I'd be a little concerned about this. But he also posted a story saying hackers would release a video of former President Bill Clinton raping a teenage girl. He called Mike Chernovich, the alt-right social commentator, a source I trust. And he shared fake news stories saying Obama flaunted an erection to female reporters in 2008 and that Senator Marco Rubio had a coke house, a gayish dance troupe, and foam parties. Like where they sit in a circle, like that.
Speak to Randi. Call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
Randi Rhodes. Air Force.
Well, the unthinkables happened. We have Donald Trump moving into the White House in 2017. Of course, this move brings extreme uncertainty to our country's financial future. I mean, you got the Don and his crew moving into the White House now, and who knows what they'll do to our economy. When he moves into the White House, everyone needs to get their own financial house in order before the Don and the crew have the time to do some serious economic damage to this country. Now, when it's time for financial security, it's time for gold. So call my friends at ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Gold's always brought its owners security in uncertain times just like this. Call ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Get expert guidance from their precious metals consultants. They've helped tens of thousands of people navigate this market. They have the best reputation in the industry. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1929. That was the day that Viljo Raasval and Jani Voutilainen disappeared on their way to recruit workers at a bush camp during a strike in northwestern Ontario, Canada, near Thunder Bay. They were both Finnish Canadians. Viljo Raasval was an organizer for the Lumber Workers Industrial Union of Canada. The union included many Finnish lumber workers and had ties to the Canadian Communist Party. Jani Voutilainen was an experienced trapper. The two men never made it to their destination, the Pigeon Timber Company camp located north of Onion Lake. It was unknown what had happened to them until the next April. Voutilainen's body was found in shallow water at the edge of Onion Lake. A few days later, Raasval was found also drowned in a nearby creek that emptied into the lake. The Finnish workers blamed the deaths of the two men on the conservative Finnish camp boss, who oversaw the Onion Lake encampment. The coroner's autopsy ruled the deaths accidental drownings, but many remained unconvinced and suspected foul play. They questioned how an experienced trapper such as Voutilainen could fall through the ice and drown in such shallow water. Thousands attended the funeral for the martyrs. The debate over what happened to the two men continues to this day. An historical marker reads, quote, "The mystery surrounding the deaths of Raasval and Voutilainen endures, sustaining them in public memory as martyrs to the cause of organized labor." A headstone donated by the Thunder Bay and District Labor Council was erected in 1993 to honor the graves which had gone previously unmarked. The deaths of the two men traveling to organize workers remains a mystery of the Canadian labor movement to this day. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Okay, so we have this epidemic of fake news. You have real news. 50 different intelligence, higher-ups, 50 different people from the intelligence community wrote a letter, had it published in the New York Times saying that they could not endorse Donald Trump. They don't trust him. They think he's, they think he's irresponsible and a loose cannon, and isn't aware of the kind of time and attention it takes to, be the leader of the free world. That he's incurious. He doesn't want to know anything. He just thinks he's going to staff it out and hire people. So if we know that about him, that he thinks he's just going to staff it out and hire people, then you have to look at the people he's staffing it out to and hiring. And this is just a frightening list so far. I mean, the idea that we would have a Muslim registry and that he's picking people that say, yes, we will. CBS has a story it's like the newest story I can find that says that Chris Kobach, first of all, why are they all coming from Coke, Kansas? Don't you find that interesting, that it's all coming from Kansas? You know why they're against the Iranian deal? All of them. Everyone in Trump's administration will be looking to break up that Iranian nuclear deal because Iran is about to start producing oil and gas again, okay? And the Koch brothers aren't really thrilled about that competition. So we're going to have to go to war for the Koch brothers, really? And it's just so bizarre because you look at the Pompeo is from Kansas, Chris Kobach is from Kansas, the Koch brothers are from Kansas. I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing that's going on, and it's so easy to see it coming down the pike. And of course, to keep all the nutbags in our country at bay who will not pay attention to anything, they'll just be all about, we have to go to war. I hate Muslims because this is what all this talk from the Trump campaign has been about. So it's clearing the way to go and bomb Syria, to go and bomb Iran, to go and just destroy, partner up with Russia and take over the Middle East, and occupy it, a la Iraq. How'd that turn out for us? And then lower taxes during that time of war. And then when the blowback comes, just blame it on someone else. You can see this coming. You can see it now from what he's putting in, where. The Attorney General is going to be Jeff Sessions, a white nationalist. That's going to be his Attorney General. This is like it's like a Confederate general. He's named after a Confederate general. His name is Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. I mean, this is so easy to see now. Things are coming, and it's war. It is. And the war that's coming is the war. I mean, he's going to partner with Putin because he's been partnered with Putin. Okay, Manafort was, the first the first indication that we were, friendly towards, Russian dictators and KGB agents and Russia in, oligarchy and oligarchs. That was the first indication. Oh, James Comey, please don't be done. Please, please, please tell me you're not finished. Please. These are the people that want the mass surveillance again, the NSA, the mass surveillance. Okay, this is what Flynn will be doing. It's so amazing. And Bannon's going to do all the, the Goebbels stuff. He'll do all the propaganda. He'll tell you who to hate and when to hate them. I mean, they're going to pretend like we were always at war with Iran. We're at war with Iraq? Oh, no, we're at war with Iran. We were always at war with Iran. You know what I mean? This is very Orwellian. Anyway, I mean, you got a guy who was rejected for a federal judgeship, as I told you the other day. I think I was the first person to say, let's take our eyes off Bannon and let's look at the people that are in the running for these big positions. And we went over Jeff Sessions' hideous reputation and his hideous, confirmation hearing that ended in a complete and utter rejection of him as a federal judge, a Reagan-appointed judge who came down the pike for confirmation after 200 other Reagan appointees had just sailed through their confirmation. But there was something so distasteful and so horrible about Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III that even the Republican Reagan lovers said no to him. Because you want to hear the whole story of the Marion Three? You want to hear who he really prosecuted and how that came about? This is such a sad story, but this is his legacy, okay? When he was being confirmed when he was at his confirmation hearings, okay, it came up that he was, in opposition to civil rights, dating back to, his time as a U.S. attorney. And they rejected him, the Senate did, for a federal judgeship because he had falsely prosecuted black political activists in Alabama because he opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and it was already, like the 80s. But here's what happened. You all know John Lewis, right? You know John Lewis's story. He was, the infamous Bloody Sunday March over the Pettit Bridge in Selma, Alabama. This is where Jeff Sessions is from, Selma, Alabama. He's from that particular place, which is just very important to understand why he is who he is. Anyway, March 7th, 1965, ahead of the civil rights, the voting right, you had John Lewis and you had a guy named Albert Turner, who was a bricklayer from Marion, Alabama. He was a tall, sturdy guy. And he was walking directly behind John Lewis over the Pettit Bridge on Bloody Sunday. And when John Lewis fell because the police started to beat him, Mr. Turner, Albert Turner, also fell. He said, I fell down and I ran. And then I fell down again and I ran some more. finally we get the Voting Rights Act after Bloody Sunday, okay? Because the North starts to see this is the first time we have television, like 65, right? It's black and white, but it's in most homes. And the North started to look at this, and especially the Jewish population up north, which is why they hate Jews. We were like, oh my God, we didn't know this was going on. We had no idea. It's like, who the hell, turns hoses on people? Who sicks dogs on people? Where is the police force allowed to beat people based on the fact that they're marching or protesting peaceably? And that's when, all the civil rights conversation started. All right. So we finally get the Voting Rights Act. And Albert Turner became known as Mr. Voter Registration, because he worked as a field secretary at Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And then in 1968, after Martin Luther King was assassinated, he led the mule wagon that carried Martin Luther King's body through the streets of Atlanta. Anyway, because of Albert Turner's work and guys like him, African Americans started to get political control of a lot of the counties in Alabama. It was called the Black Belt, where you could practically count the number of black voters on one hand, but there were so many more people that lived there who couldn't vote. So all of a sudden, blacks started to vote. They started to vote. They were getting registered. Albert Turner was running around, really working hard to tell people it's okay. You won't go to jail. They're not going to do anything to you. It's safe. We did this. We're good. Let's register. And so you started to see some political power in the Black Belt. Well, guys like Sessions from Selma weren't very happy about it. So during the Democratic primary of September 1984, FBI agents, and this is why it's so important who controls law enforcement in this country, FBI agents hid behind the bushes of the Perry County Post Office. Why? Why would you have FBI in Alabama, Perry County, hiding by the post office in the bushes? Because they were waiting for Albert Turner and another person named Spencer Hogue to mail 500 absentee ballots that they had collected on behalf of elderly black voters who couldn't make it to the polls. And so when Turner and Hogue left the post office, the feds went and seized the envelopes from the mail slots. And 20 elderly black voters from Perry County were bused 3 hours to Mobile, Alabama, where they were interrogated by law enforcement officials and forced to testify in front of a grand jury that they didn't cast these ballots, that this was fraud. This was complete and utter voter fraud. Well, one of the men was a 92-year-old guy, black guy. His name was Willie Bright, and he was so scared of the law, he would not admit that he voted. He was terrified because he had lived 90 years before the Voting Rights Act, and he knows that just even saying you were going to register could get you lynched. He knew, when he was in his lifetime, you couldn't even read. That could get you lynched. So he was terrified of law enforcement, which was inundated with Ku Klux Klan members. And he was so scared, he said he would not admit he voted. In January 1985, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, who was then a 39-year-old U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Alabama, charged Albert Turner and his wife Evelyn Turner and Mr. Hogue with 29 counts of mail fraud, altering absentee ballots, and conspiracy to vote more than once. They faced over 100 years in jail on criminal charges and felony statutes under the Voting Rights Act, provisions of the law that had never been used to prosecute the white officials who had disenfranchised blacks for years and years. But the Turners and Mr. Hogue became known as the Marion Three. Mr. and Mrs. Turner and Mr. Hogue, the Marion Three. They held a trial in Selma, Alabama, and of course Jeff Sessions was the prosecutor, and they had a jury of 7 blacks and 5 whites. And they deliberated for less than 3 hours, and they came back and they returned a not guilty verdict on all counts. 4 months later, Ronald Reagan nominates Jeff Sessions to be a federal court judge. This is like one of those moments when Ronald Reagan does, when he launched his candidacy. Where did he do it? In Philadelphia, Mississippi. You know what I mean? It's like, so he was sending a message too, Reagan was. After this prosecution, this failed prosecution, 4 months later, the Reagan administration nominated Jeff Sessions for a federal judgeship. Ted Kennedy said, Mr. Sessions' role in the voting fraud case in Alabama alone should bar him from sitting on the bench. Albert Turner's brother, one of the Marion Three, Albert Turner, his wife Evelyn, and Mr. Hogue are the Marion Three. Albert Turner's brother flew to Washington from Perry County to testify against Jeff Sessions. The attorneys from the Justice Department Civil Rights Division also testified against Jeff Sessions. Jerry Herbert, who worked in the Department of Justice voting section, told Congress that Jeff Sessions had called the NAACP and the ACLU communist-inspired and un-American, and labeled white civil rights lawyer Jim Blacksher, quote, a disgrace to his race. And Thomas Figures, a black assistant U.S. attorney in Mobile, said that Sessions had repeatedly referred to him as boy. And Figures was also the person from whom we get the story that Sessions said that the KKK used to be all right with him until he found out they were pot smokers. Now, Jeff Sessions did admit to calling the Voting Rights Act a piece of intrusive legislation. And now, Jeff Sessions will be in charge of enforcing the civil rights laws like the Voting Rights Act, which has already been gutted by the Supreme Court, which was gutted by the Supreme Court as a desire of Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions has been at specifically Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act for years, and he got his wish. And now he's going to be the person that's in charge of enforcing our civil rights. So let's see. Jeff Sessions of Alabama might have a racist past. Who couldn't see this coming? Is the senator from Selma, Alabama, the white senator from Selma, Alabama, a racist? Well, for starters, he's from Selma, Alabama, and he's white. And he was a U.S. attorney, prosecuting voter fraud by blacks in Selma, Alabama, ineffectively, but just, making people quake in their shoes, and then rejected as a federal district court judge. Now, what's he going to do? Share bed sheets with Steve Bannon? I mean, how does this work now? How is this possible? All the things that we've worked so hard for, all of the liberties that, some people just take for granted. Everything from gay marriage to, African Americans can vote now. Hey, you know what this is? I'll tell you what this is. This is jealousy and envy, and I'm telling you, one of the driving emotions of the right wing, all of them, is envy. One of the biggest, it's anger, and anger is, always a cover. It's always a mask for fear. And what are they afraid of? I'll tell you what they're afraid of. When you look at the statistics and you see most African Americans in this country, most of them are middle class or upper middle class. Most of them took advantage of the opportunities that they created for themselves through their hard work and efforts, through their resistance, through their embedding in their own communities and talking to their own children and stressing upon them the need for education, the need to do things a certain way in order to get ahead, have moved successfully into the middle class and have moved successfully into the upper middle class. And the white people who still live in these places that are ruled by Republican governors, Republican legislatures, who have enriched themselves and deprived those communities of any progress, are envious of the progress that others have made. This is also why they hate the Jews. We're successful, and they don't understand how is that possible. They don't like Asians either. Why? Because they're very studious, and their parents are strict. And school is everything in all of our homes. They don't share this ethic. And they're sitting there scratching their heads and other various body parts going, how did I lose my place in line?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Here's what's happening on the Leslie Marshall Show on the Progressive Voices Network. Dr. Harlan Ullman is our guest. Could Donald Trump really dismantle the Iran nuclear deal? And is this rhetoric that Trump is putting out there, was that for votes? Was it to appease Bibi over in Israel?
I can't get inside his brain. He never read the agreement. A lot of his supporters never read the agreement. When they said that's the worst deal that they've ever seen, he's never read it. So that's just absurd. So I don't have any idea why he said the things he did. I think that they were crazy about this. But just like saying that he's going to revamp NAFTA, it doesn't work that way. This is not a bilateral situation. He's not having a negotiation with somebody to build a hotel. He's not negotiating with a bank. He's negotiating with many, many other countries. And if those countries decide that they're not interested in negotiation, yeah, he can try and withdraw from NAFTA, but that's going to really hurt the United States economy.
So we have a group of nations that we are a part of. This is not only a hard thing to do. President Obama said that it is also hard to justify and that this deal is working. Would you agree with both of those points?
Absolutely.
And can you explain why?
And the alternative, very simply, is that do you want to go to war with Iran? And the answer is, of course not. And the deal is working. We've got inspectors on the ground. Iran is abiding by what it agreed to, and so is the West.
Why do you think so many Americans don't hear that or don't believe that?
Well, first of all, I think since the Vietnam War and all the difficulties we've had with Watergate, the resignation of Nixon, and on and on and on, the Second Iraq War, that institutions in this country have lost credibility. The only institution I can think of that's being held in high regard is the military. But everything from the Catholic Church to the Boy Scouts to the Congress to the media is being held with great contempt. And so I think Americans have just become very skeptical, cynical, and disbelieving of their government. And so they don't want to believe what the government says. And I don't think the government has made a particularly strong case, by the way, in some of these issues. We have government that's obviously broken, and fixing it is not going to be particularly easy. We have an American society, in my judgment, which is really quite fearful about the future. And that fear has transformed itself into anger and fury because people can't make enough to survive on health care, education of children, et cetera, et cetera. The notion that 70% of Americans think we're on the wrong track and think that their children and grandchildren will not live as well as they did has caused this degree of cynicism and negativism to break out. That's why Donald Trump was elected. That's why Bernie Sanders did so well. And so you have to overcome that. And so for those reasons, sometimes no matter what a government says, if somebody says that's nonsense, people will believe the nonsense because they really don't want to engage the time to look at what's the truth and what's fact, because they simply have stopped believing in the reliability and the integrity of their government.
Catch my show, The Leslie Marshall Show, Monday to Friday on the Progressive Voices Network.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
All right, Dana in Maryland. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just a couple quick things. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. How are you?
Okay. No, just because I haven't talked to you since the election. I was telling Howard, some days are better than others.
Yeah.
I finally just had to, turn off the TV. I can't.
You have to. I'm so sorry.
You absolutely.
Yeah. This whole morning in America thing has got to end because, people have got to be vigilant now. I mean, people have to talk to each other. I would suggest this weekend, if you've never been to, or if there is one near you, go to a black church, listen to what they're saying, invite them to your place, whatever. I mean, people have got to organize.
Right, absolutely. No, and that's what we're doing. We've already got a ground game going in my neighborhood for the midterms.
Good.
And people keep missing the midterms. They keep saying 4 years, 4 years. 2 years if we can get our butts to the polls.
Oh yeah, well, but look, things are going to happen very quickly now. Okay, they're going to happen super fast. So we don't even have 2 years. We just don't. Things happen very quickly. No, I know. It's just now. If I'm right, what's going to happen is we're going to have some sort of a national something, something big, something horrible, right? It's going to be it's going to be used. It's going to be used this time to suspend habeas corpus and do national, this whole Patriot Act thing all over again. Okay.
Yeah, the Holocaust.
And Muslim registries, which is just bizarre.
Yep.
The police are already super militarized, okay?
But it's
and we know what the attitude of a lot of the police officers are. There's going to be a civil war inside various police departments.
Absolutely. And people who tell me and my family, we're Jewish. And every day you wake up to more swastikas and more, the Jews are really being attacked right now, and I'm not saying that's any less to any other minority or ethnic group or religion. And you're right. I have black friends, gay friends. My son's been in a gay wedding. He was the ring bearer for my brother-in-law. So, luckily, we have a good core in the family home. But it's not like she lost to Jeb Bush. Because they're like, why are you having protests? Because I went to a couple of protests, actually, in Baltimore. And why are you doing this in the safety pin? It doesn't do any good. It's like, because we have a voice and we're not going away. And she didn't lose to Jeb Bush, who's somewhat sane. She lost to a maniac.
She did. She lost to a white nationalist. She lost to an ethno-nationalist. She lost to somebody who disregards an entire religion, who promoted bigotry and hatred towards almost every American that you could possibly check off of a list. People who built. This man is so full of vindictiveness, revenge, a worldview that is so completely Aryan.
I think he's just very narcissistic as well, perhaps borderline personality disorder. He doesn't even see a world where he's not running the show.
And that's the scariest thing.
I can't believe we did this. And to the 43% of people who sat home on their asses, fucking shame on you.
Yeah, it is a shame. I feel the same way about that. Raymond in the Bronx.
Hi, Randy. Long time since I've called. No, I just wanted to point out something that a lot of people aren't saying about Donald Trump. He's one of these old school New York con mans. He just conned the entire, half of the voting public of the country into voting for something that, a lot of that he's probably not going to wind up doing. He's got this whole other course in mind. And I don't know, America just is dumber than I really thought they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they are.
For people in America,
America is really dumbed down. It's so bad that, today, I remember when I was talking to you about fake news?
Yep.
Okay, so I was talking about fake news, and then finally the mainstream media, the real news outfits, San Francisco Gate, the Washington Post, a couple of other newspapers, decided to figure out what the hell was going on. And it led them to a guy named Paul Horner. He's a 38-year-old guy, and he's running a fake news empire. Okay, he's made his living off of viral news hoaxes for several years, and he's doing it because he starts these fake websites, and then he promotes them. He knows how to do search engine optimization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he's.
Yeah, I'm familiar with IT work. I do it for a living.
Okay, so
when you start talking about that, it makes sense to me.
Okay, so he started to spread and tweet and get viewership for his fake news, and off of Google AdSense. Okay, this guy makes $10,000 a month.
Oh my God!
Now
see, that's the thing is we need somebody on the left, not to go out in the woods.
No, check this out. He is on the left.
Oh.
He is on the left. And they asked him, what the hell were you doing? Why were you doing this? He said, honestly, people are definitely dumber. They just keep passing this stuff around. No one fact checks anything. Now listen to what he said. Okay, he said, my sites were picked up by Trump supporters all the time. I think Trump is in the White House because of me. His followers don't fact check anything. They post everything and believe anything. Yeah. His campaign manager posted my story about a protester getting paid $3,500 as a fact. He said, I made that up. I posted a fake ad on Craigslist. He said, I thought they'd fact check it, and I thought that would make Trump look bad. He said, that's how this used to work. He said, someone posts something I write, then they find out it's false and they look like an idiot. But Trump supporters in the media, they just kept running with it. They never fact-checked anything. He was doing the fake news because he thought that it would come out of Trump's mouth and that the media would fact-check him and he would look like a dope. But instead, he said these things and no one fact-checked him.
Yeah, they didn't fact-check Trump throughout the whole campaign. I mean, it was, I think you said it was the most factless or policy-free campain.
Yeah,
it was policy-free.
It was a personality thing, you know. And if you're into personalities, then, you know, what's wrong with, Richard Gere? Anthony Bourdain for president, for God's sake. He'd make a better Secretary of State than Mitt Romney, no?
Randi Rhodes for president?
No.
One last thing, if you have a second.
Yeah.
If for the Americans that don't know Rudy Giuliani, I was a teenager when he was mayor of New York, and one of the many incidents that I had with his police department, the projects, Bronx River Projects, is close to where Amadou Diallo was murdered, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Regularly, I grew up hanging out in that neighborhood, and it was a regular thing to get pulled over, and pulled over sounds polite, get accosted by the police, simply because I was of a certain age and in a certain neighborhood with no bearing. I mean, it got to the point that some of the cops, because they roll around in what they call gun crews, and their job is to look for guns all the time, they got to know us. They would joke around, search us, and then send us on our way. But that's the America that you have to look forward to. And it might not happen for those people in Kansas, but in New York, in LA, in all the cities where most of, I'm Puerto Rican, and most people of color tend to gravitate towards cities. We're going to live through a living hell if Giuliani becomes Secretary of State. If he has any kind of reign over law enforcement in the country, we're going to have at least 4 years of hell. God forbid if it's more.
Well, look, this is, and what happens, you know, it sounds to like white supremacists, it sounds like a really good idea to stop and frisk people. But what happens is the community becomes scared of the police to the point where they don't tell the police if they see crime or if they hear a crime being planned or if they they just say, never talk to the police. And you know why? Because listen, how many stories did we have to read to you where somebody called the police because their son was, and then
the child gets hurt or killed? Yeah,
that's right. So people stop telling.
Regular occurrence.
Right, and that's what happens. So when we talked about community policing, we were saying, get people from the neighborhood to join the force. People who grew up there, people who know the people there, people who know the elderly, people who know the kids, people who know the schools. And this is not the way to do it.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. There was a TV show a few years back on HBO, The Wire. There was one episode where one of the captains, he explains exactly what's wrong with policing nowadays. When I was younger in New York, we had police that patrolled our neighborhood, your regular uniformed police, and they walked the beat. And
you knew who they were. Exactly.
And whether you liked them or not,
I know.
There was a level of respect because I knew your name and you knew my name.
Exactly.
And you don't have that anymore. They run around like gangs.
I know. And they used to say things to me like, I'm going to tell your father. Put that cigarette out. I'm going to tell your father. Right? That doesn't exist anymore.
Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
And if there are other approaches, such as declaring Standing Rock a federal monument, let's do that.
Senator Bernie Sanders finds a new way to block the Dakota Access Pipeline.
But that didn't go to replace, what was there when we had a vibrant coal industry.
Republican Senate Majority Leader admits U.S. coal jobs unlikely to be coming back. Mercury contamination in fish is declining thanks to pollution regulations. October 26 was not the hottest October on record. Plus,
it's no longer a question of whether to accelerate the agreement's implementation, but rather a question of when and how.
U.S. climate negotiators say climate action is unstoppable even in the age of Trump.
Oh, those optimistic diplomats. All of that optimism and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
He wants to get rid of the EPA and replace the environment with something terrific.
Well, hey, at least he's got a plan. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, did I hear you say there in the teaser that October 2016 was not the hottest October on record?
That's right, you did.
And that's news?
That is news. It was the second hottest October on record.
Well, again, there's something. Finding the optimism wherever we can.
See?
Got more for us?
Yes. Bernie Sanders came up with a great idea to block the Dakota Access Pipeline. During a worldwide day of action against the pipeline, protests took place in 300 cities around the world and the U.S. in solidarity with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, who say the pipeline threatens their drinking water and sacred sites. At a rally outside the White House, Senator Bernie Sanders called on President Obama to cancel the project.
Every environmental study will tell you, do not build this pipeline. And if there are other approaches, such as declaring Standing Rock a federal monument, let's do that.
So what he's saying there is Obama could just reject the Dakota Access Pipeline if he wanted to now, but Trump could simply reverse that. On the other hand, if Obama declares it a federal monument, then there's nothing Trump could do to reverse that?
Pretty much, if I understand it correctly.
That's pretty smart. That guy ought to run for president or something.
On Monday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers delayed final approval for a crucial permit allowing the company to tunnel under the Missouri River. That's pending further consultation with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Meanwhile, in coal country, despite Donald Trump's campaign promises to revitalize the declining U.S. coal industry, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell finally admitted in a recent press conference that repealing the Obama administration's coal emissions and pollution standards might not actually bring back the U.S. coal industry.
We are going to be presenting to the new president a variety of options that could end this assault. Whether that immediately brings business back is hard to tell because this is a private sector activity.
McConnell is acknowledging that market forces from cheaper natural gas and the rise of renewable energy are really what's behind the coal industry's struggles.
I thought it was Obama's war on coal. Turns out, I guess it isn't.
Some more encouraging news. Thanks to that global decline in the use of coal and tighter pollution regulations, toxic mercury contamination from coal that's now found in the fish we eat may also be declining. A new Harvard study this week has found that since 2004, as coal use has declined, mercury contamination in tuna has also declined by an average of 19%.
Well, I'm sure Mitch McConnell is very upset about that.
In Morocco, where United Nations member countries are meeting to hammer out the next phase of the Paris Agreement, the global accord to cut global greenhouse gas emissions, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has called for the European Union to slap a border carbon tax on all imported U.S. products if Donald Trump withdraws the U.S. from the agreement. In a press conference on Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry sought to reassure world leaders.
No one has a right to make decisions that affect billions of people based on solely ideology or without proper input. And no one should doubt the overwhelming majority of the citizens of the United States who know climate change is happening and who are determined to keep our commitments that were made in Paris.
Uncertainty about America's commitment to the Paris Agreement is tilting global leadership at the UN conference toward China, which seems to suit China just fine, according to Reuters. So other countries are moving ahead on climate action with or without the United States.
Making America suck again. For much more on that and other optimistic stories, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget, you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us and follow us on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Forget your troubles, come on, get happy. You better chase all your cares away. Shout hallelujah, come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment day.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Oh, come on, play. Oh, wait. Here.
Should there be a database system that tracks the Muslims here in this country?
There should be a lot of systems beyond database. I mean, we should have a lot of systems. And today you can do it. But right now we have to have a border, we have to have strength, we have to have a wall, and we cannot let what's happening to this country happen.
But that's something your White House would like to implement.
Oh, I would certainly implement that. Absolutely.
What do you think the effect of that would be? How would that work?
It would stop people from coming in illegally. We have to stop people from coming in to our country illegally.
But Muslims specifically, how do you actually get them registered into a database?
It would be just good management. What you have to do is good management procedures. And we can do that. It's nice.
I mean, do you go to mosques and sign these people up into the system?
Different places. You sign them up at different, but it's all about management. Our country has no management. Whose is that?
Would they have to legally be in this database? Would it be their
They have to be. They have to be. Let me just tell you, the key is people can come to the country, but they have to come in legally. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trump, why would Muslim databases not be the same thing as requiring Jews to register in Nazi Germany? What would be the difference? Is there a difference between the two? Is there a difference?
Who are you with?
I'm with NBC News. Is there a difference between requiring Muslims to register and Jews?
You tell me.
Nazi Germany?
You tell me.
Do you believe?
Why don't you tell me?
Do you believe there is?
You tell me.
Should Muslims be, fearful? Will there be consequences if they don't register?
Oh gosh, here's the
Let me see that.
Yeah.
A colleague of yours, Republican.
Should Muslims be forced to register? And he said, yes, they have to register. And he said, well, what's the difference between Nazi Germany and your plan to register Muslims? And his answer was, you tell me. How is it different, Mr. Trump? You tell me. What the hell does that mean? This is when you have to say, first they came for and I wasn't, so I said nothing. Until they came for me. Right? Right. Roger in Houston.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Long-time listener, first-time call.
Oh, hello.
So the Muslim ban, the registration, what I'm seeing is the obvious fact that it's not a
I
state
can't
issue,
understand you. Your phone's very bad.
Can you hear me now?
Try.
The Muslim ban and the registration?
Yeah.
This is not a safety thing whatsoever. This is an opportunity to provide fodder for the ISIS and the other extremists to go on their soapbox and say, see, we told you.
Right.
And this is also the opportunity for those that aren't radicalized to become radicalized because of the fact that they're saying, look, what have we got to lose?
Right.
So yeah, this is definitely not a safety thing. It's definitely they want to cause a conflict. exactly
That's right.
what
This
he
is
said.
this is to demonize an entire part of the world. This is to demonize an entire region of the world in people's minds, because they know nobody reads a freaking newspaper. Fake news gets repeated and reposted, and so all they're going to do is gin up all these really stupid, dumbed down people to make them understand or make them believe or make them perceive that the real enemy here, the real one, is Muslims, and that we must attack Iran. We have to let Russia finish off Syria, partner with Russia, and let them do whatever they're going to do there. And this is going to create a clash of civilizations that they have been drooling for. You know, Donald Trump is such a narcissist that he wants to be a commander-in-chief in wartime. And this is the path down which we're going to walk right into a war with Iran, a war with Syria.
Yeah, exactly. And we've heard it over again.
And remember, in wartime, the president has so many powers that he doesn't have when we're not at war. I mean, so many powers. I mean, the president could literally shut down the internet. He could literally say, I don't want any counter opinions, loose lips sink ships. And so I don't need people talking. I don't need people talking or second guessing. I don't need anybody, free exchange of ideas is banned now because, frankly, we're at war. And, we can't have it. I mean, this and sacrifice. Oh, my God. You people, I'm sorry, you're going to have to sacrifice this and sacrifice that. And, and it's all because the Koch brothers and the oil magnates and the people who run the pipelines, like the Donald Trumps of the world, who owns anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million worth of the Dakota pipeline, they don't want the competition in the oil and gas business. That's what this is. This is all, the same swampy people. This is the same oligarchs. This is the same elite. This is the same, moneyed elite that are, plotting and planning against ordinary people and progress.
Yeah, remember, they're riding on the evangelicals, too, because this is the...
Well, in my opinion, the evangelicals ought to be ashamed of themselves. Because Trump showed you he was not... anybody that you should promote to your children. He showed you that. He used foul language. He talked about assaulting women, whether he did it or not. There are women that still have oh, by the way, he just settled his Trump University fraud lawsuit. Sure. $25 million. I wonder, though, how much each and every American can get from Trump after the fraud of his presidency is exposed. I'm going to make a claim after the fraud of his president, because, you can we sue Trump for fraud after he tanks the United States, after he bankrupts us? Can we? You think we could? And then we're going to have to decide, should the people who were dumb enough to vote for him be allowed to be part of the class action? Do we want them in our class action? So he's settling for $25 million, and yet he said he didn't do anything wrong, okay? So think about this. He's settling a case for $25 million, but he says he didn't do anything wrong. What a great negotiator. Think about that. Great businessman. The casino always wins. Not in Trump world. Didn't do anything wrong. Here's $25 million. Great negotiator. Yeah. Got to be the worst negotiator of all time, or the biggest fraud and liar of all time, or both. And the right wing, they'll say, well, it's traditional for the president-elect to settle all lawsuits before entering the Oval. Right, because that's what Eisenhower did. That's what FDR did. That's what Obama did. They settled all their fraud cases before they became president. So for the victims of Trump University, at least something good came out of his election. For you. Enjoy arguing. Enjoy splitting all the $25 million between all of you and your lawyers. Oh, did you know, this is interesting to people who are lawyers. Mike Pompeo used to work at Williams and Connolly. Did you know that? I know. Guilty. Yeah. And he's going to take control of our spy agency. Yeah. Williams and Connolly. That's where you go when you're guilty. Williams and Connolly is a law firm that represents very wealthy, guilty people. That's what that is. And that's where he worked. Mike Pompeo was a very high-powered attorney for the guiltiest, richest people on the planet. And then he came into Congress with the Tea Party wave. He's the Tea Party guy. I actually printed out his position on the issues. Name one. Name an issue you care about. He's against it. Okay. Brother David in Kansas. What is the going on in Kansas? You moved there, and now all of a sudden all the Kansans are in.
Like I said, out of the center out, I didn't realize the sludge was going to rise that direction. And trust me, sister, here in Kansas, the only happy thing about the situation is
I can't hear you, David.
Is that Chris Koblach will now be the country's problem, which is a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
Out of the ashes of the PNAC and its afterward things, something has come up. I keep waiting to hear Grover Norquist's name bandied about myself. It's just, it beggars belief. Quick shout out to the chat room. Hope you're all behaving while I'm not looking at you. Tell 10 people to please subscribe. Go to the website.
Oh, you know what?
Podcast.
You know what's very important? Yes, buy a Stinkin' Podcast. But what's very, very important to me right now, because a lot of people, they're saying, "Oh, when I get paid," and so I realize they're living paycheck to paycheck. So what you can do for us, what you can do for our organization, what you can do is go to the YouTube page, and if you're watching on the YouTube page, just click subscribe. That's it. And you know what you'll get? You'll get, if you have a phone. Once you subscribe, it'll give you a live notice saying the show's about to start. You'll never miss the show live. It's free live, as you know. So just by clicking that subscribe button, you'll get, notifications. That's just says, Randi Rhodes is now live on YouTube. Nothing else. There's no, ads. There's no nothing. Nobody's coming after you. Just please, because we're not even a 9,000. I need to get this over 10,000 so that I can get customer service from freaking YouTube.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the net neutrality issue is one, it's like a prism, and it seems undefeatable. That's why I've been very urgent in all my dealings around here that technically we have till December 19th. And after that, this is, as my housemate said this morning, this is going to be proof positive who has the power. The 1% or the 300 million.
Right.
We have to jump into resistance mode. That's the actuality of it. And that's hard to accept. But the circular firing squads and the blame and all of that, there is simply no time for. This is how I'm looking at it anyway. Being half Anne Frank and half Harry Tuttle in Brazil. We're all in this together, even those who don't believe
You want to know?
are.
You want to know what I've been doing? I swear to God, I heard somebody say this, and so I just thought, maybe I should do it too. I keep on reading Maya Angelou's "Still I Rise."
And Still I Rise. Jeff Key, my dear friend Jeff Key, pulled me out of my malaise the horrible morning after. That was his live feed on Facebook, reading it, and I went, yes, of course.
Yeah.
The sun is still here, and there are still more of us than them.
Yeah. I know. I know.
The secret assemblies, secret groups, and the marching, etc., has to accelerate and continue, and I believe it will, because I do think more of us get it than don't. I have to believe that.
I do believe that. I know that that's true. I absolutely know that that's true.
True.
I mean, there's no question in my mind that is true, and that the Republicans totally get it too, which is why I think that their brutality against us is going to be pretty widespread, pretty fast, pretty heavy duty.
To be prepared for it.
And we have to be prepared for it. But the truth is that they know that, more people voted for the Democrat than for the Republican, and people did it holding their nose, for God's sake. Obviously, there are more of us than there are of them, and that's why there's gerrymandering to keep the numbers down, so you don't get the representation that you deserve. That's why there's voter suppression. That's why they didn't open early voting in North Carolina. That's why they gutted the Voting Rights Act again. They know that when we have access to the ballot box, they lose, and they know that when we show up, they lose, and so they do everything they can to make us not be able to show up, or to keep like one machine in a polling place, so the line is 5 5 hours long and you can't wait because you're working. I mean, they've thought of everything, these people. So, of course, they know there's more of us than there are of them. That's you know what Luis Gutierrez from Illinois, the congressman, you know what he said today? This is a great quote. I just saw it. He said about Jeff Sessions taking over our civil rights, enforcement over at the Attorney General's office. He said, if you have nostalgia for the days when blacks kept quiet, gays were in the closet, immigrants were invisible, and women stayed in the kitchen, Senator Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is your man. He said, no senator has fought harder against the hopes and aspirations of immigrants, Latinos, and people of color than Jeff Sessions. Now, remember, he's got to be confirmed again. And Senator Dianne Feinstein is now the ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. We will never be the chairman because we're in the minority, but we are within spitting distance. Like I said, if Louisiana gives us that extra senator, December 10th, you vote Louisiana, December 10th. But she said, Sessions is very well aware of the thorough vetting he's about to receive. So I don't know what that includes, but these will be watched. Now, remember this. If Sessions if he's confirmed, he will lead an agency of more than 100,000 employees, and he will have a budget of $30 billion. His job as Attorney General will be to go after terrorists, civil rights violators, and people who break environmental laws. Really? Jeff Sessions? I'll tell you what he'll do is he's going to do the Muslim registry. He's going to fight any civil rights, complaints because he thinks the ACLU is completely communist. He thinks the NAACP is un-American. By the way, he did vote against Obama's two selections for the Supreme Court. He voted against Elena Kagan and Sotomayor. But he was the first U.S. senator to endorse Donald Trump. I wonder what he heard in Donald Trump so early that made him say, yep, that's the guy. Think it had anything to do with they're not bringing their best. They're bringing rapists and drugs and crime. You think it was that he said, I don't care whatever else he's for. He's sufficiently racist enough for me. Yeah, I have a funny feeling that was it. But there should be a confirmation fight, at least for that one. And like I said, Flynn, who's been, was forced out of the intelligence community, and now there's a letter from 50 intelligence community members saying, oh crap, this can't happen. He doesn't need confirmation. Flynn doesn't. But Mike Pompeo does. He's a big hawk. He's a hawkish Republican. He's from Kansas. Do you know that he used to patrol the Berlin Wall as a cavalryman? I mean, these are some strange dudes they found.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on Randi Rhodes.
And everything is possible again. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you want to keep it this way, buy a stinking podcast. Oh, yes, you have to buy a stinking podcast. And you get that at RandiRhodes.com. where we're open all day, all night long. RandiRhodes.com. Get your stinking podcast.
Hello, Progressive Voices Tune-In listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
Did you know that after a Medicaid beneficiary passes away, the state where they lived can collect the cost of Medicaid services received on or after his or her 55th birthday from his or her estate?
Most states will send out notices about the Medicaid state recovery, and most of the time people don't need to worry about it unless they received long-term care or some other kind of rehab care or whatever before their death. It's not something that states are required to go after people for small amounts of benefits they receive through the Medicaid program. if you have a surviving spouse, that person will not have to pay back what you got in long-term care. If you have a large estate, you probably aren't going to qualify for Medicaid in the first place. But if you have an estate that has other bills and there are other things going on, most states will sit down and figure out what is there left even to pay back to the state for any long-term benefits, and sometimes there's nothing. So it does create a problem. There's a home that's owned and people are concerned about retaining the home and the family and so forth. So I usually tell people, if you're worried about this, if you think you sit somewhere with concerns about what may happen for you or a loved one after long-term care because you've gotten insurance on the exchange and then you have Medi-Cal or Medicaid wrapping around that coverage, I wouldn't let that be of grave concern unless you're receiving long-term care and it's anticipated that you're going to be there for some time and it's going to be a hefty bill. Then you probably do need to check it out with someone with an expert on estate so that you can know exactly what the right thing is to do.
Check out our show at nursetalksite.com and listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on Progressive Voices.
Well, the unthinkables happened. We have Donald Trump moving into the White House in 2017. Of course, this move brings extreme uncertainty to our country's financial future. I mean, you got the Don and his crew moving into the White House now, and who knows what they'll do to our economy. When he moves into the White House, everyone needs to get their own financial house in order before the Don and the crew have the time to do some serious economic damage to this country. Now, when it's time for financial security, it's time for gold. So call my friends at ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Gold's always brought its owners security in uncertain times just like this. Call ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Get expert guidance from their precious metals consultants. They've helped tens of thousands of people navigate this market. They have the best reputation in the industry. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Senator Jeff Sessions, the first U.S. senator to come out in support of Donald Trump, was a U.S. attorney in Alabama when then-President Ronald Reagan nominated him for the federal court. But the appointment broke down at Sessions' 1986 confirmation hearing when allegations over his alleged racial remarks took center stage. Allegations that Sessions angrily denied then and now.
I am not a racist. I am not insensitive to blacks. I have supported civil rights activity in my state. I have done my job with integrity, equality, and fairness for all.
Transcripts of that Senate Judiciary hearing show that Thomas Figures, a black former assistant U.S. attorney in Alabama, testified Sessions called him boy and joked about the Ku Klux Klan.
I state categorically that I have never called Mr. Figures boy.
And Gerald Hebert, who was a Justice Department lawyer, also testified. Sessions called the NAACP and ACLU un-American and communist-inspired. Hebert recalled Sessions said that he thought they did more harm than good when they were trying to force civil rights down the throats of people who were trying to put problems behind them. In a heated exchange with then-Senator Joe Biden,
Look at Joe.
Sessions denied calling the National Council of Churches and the NAACP un-American.
My opinion is they have not. They may have taken positions that I consider to be adverse to the security interest of the United States.
Does that make them un-American?
No, sir, it does not.
No. Does that make the positions un-American?
No.
Sessions also denied a statement that he thought Klan members were okay until he learned they smoked marijuana.
This assertion is ludicrous. I detest the Klan.
He went on to testify that I am loose with my tongue on occasion, and I may have said something similar to that or could be interpreted to that. His seat on the court was denied, but 10 years later, he was elected to the Senate and went on to become the Judiciary Committee's top Republican member.
Oh, God.
He told CNN's Dana Bash in 2009 that the allegations of racism were heartbreaking.
That was not fair. That was not accurate. Those were false charges and distortions of anything that I did, and it really was not. I never had those kind of views, and I was caricatured in a way that was not me.
Today, Gerald Hebert tells CNN he stands by his testimony from 30 years ago.
The allegations that I made against him and things that I had heard firsthand from him were things that demonstrated gross racial insensitivity to black citizens of Alabama and the United States.
Hebert says Sessions shouldn't be anywhere near the cabinet.
He has never backed off of the comments he made at that time. He never has apologized for them. The fact that he would be considered to lead a government agency at the cabinet level is very alarming to me.
Yes, to me too, I must say. I agree with the former Justice Department officials who say nowhere near a cabinet level position for Beauregard there. This is such a wacky crew that Donald Trump is selecting. And, you know, there are probably two reasons. One, there's no one left. My dog's here. It's okay. There's no one left. And two, these people represent the way Donald Trump aims to govern. Through racial animus, dividing. He wants to be a wartime president. I mean, you know, if you have a guy that's as egotistical as Donald Trump, and you have a guy who can't, take anybody else's, not advice, because he does take advice, but if you have a guy he's like, okay, but whatever I say goes, and that's the way it is, and, let Trump be Trump, and everybody tried to get him to stop saying such divisive things, and to stop saying such racial things, and to stop saying such heinous things about women, and to stop saying, sexual assault was okay. And he said, no, I'm going to do it my way. And they went, oh, let Trump be Trump. Well, if Trump is Trump, then Trump wants to be a wartime president so that Trump can be a dictator. Because the powers that a president has during wartime are way different than the powers that a president has during times of peace. You can, like Lincoln did, suspend habeas corpus, meaning you could be thrown in jail without ever appearing before a magistrate to plead. That's the suspension of, forget Miranda, okay? Forget all that. There's so much at stake here. This is what's so insane. And, everybody, I was, trying to see, all right, let's see who he picks. Oh, my God, Jeff Sessions, Mike Pompeo, who, by the way, Mike Pompeo is a Hillary hunter. Mike Pompeo's been after Hillary Clinton, probably because of some of his clients, that he formerly had at Williams & Co. I mean, I'm going to have to do some heavy-duty research into who his clients were and what their cases were and what the outcome of those cases were and whether he's got access to crime. But I will tell you this. When he was grilling Hillary Clinton in the Benghazi 11-hour marathon testimony, after that, there was a report that even the Republicans, okay, the Republicans signed off on a report. And even Trey Gowdy, remember Trey? Congressman Trey Gowdy, the one that looks like he just walked right out of a Star Trek episode, a la 1970, like that kind of Star Trek episode with the really crazy doozy he has. Anyway, Trey Gowdy signed off on the report that said Hillary Clinton did not kill or have killed or did anything criminal or wrong, and that Benghazi happened so quickly, and it was, Chris Stevens wanted to be there. It was his desire to be there. He wanted so badly to be there, and they really got caught off guard. Even Trey Gowdy signed off on it. I want you to know that Mike Pompeo, formerly of Williams and Connolly, he wrote his own report disagreeing with the report of the majority, disagreeing with the Republicans. He still believes Hillary Clinton is guilty in the Benghazi thing. So this is why I say, they're talking about making him the CIA, the head of the freaking Central Intelligence Agency, a lawyer from Williams and Connolly. Oh my God. All right. So if I were Hillary, I'd be scared. I would. This is just the kind of atmosphere where Jeff Sessions could appoint a special prosecutor, where the CIA could make it so that, I don't know, Hillary can't even talk on the phone anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, God only knows, how. I just can't imagine this world. I just really, and because Trump is so vindictive, I don't put anything past him. I just don't. Ron in Western Connecticut.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, this is Ron.
Yes, I know. That's why I said Ron in Western Connecticut.
It sounded like you said Ann.
Oh, no. No.
Hi. First time in a long, long time since Air America.
Okay.
And I am really, really afraid that the election is about to be stolen. Greg Palast seems to...
The election is about to be stolen. What year are you in?
2016. That it's happening,
That it's happening?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, we don't even have the final count still, but
it is
aside from the popular...
It is kind of interesting that a state the size of New Hampshire couldn't count their ballots for a week. I just find this all so fascinating here in America. It's just... It really is kind of an amazing thing.
Yeah, and Greg Palast seems to be, documenting case after case of this, state after state.
I don't.
They are manipulating it one way or the other, and I feel like the GOP will always steal an election if we let them.
Well, not showing up is how you let them. So that's what happened. I don't think Greg Palast said anything was stolen. I think Greg Palast was trying to show you that that there are certain places where certain things can be manipulated. I don't think anybody has any proof of any law breaking in this election. I just don't. What we do have is case after state after case after state of voter suppression. Voter suppression includes so many different things, like not allowing for early voting and forcing all those days to be wasted in court instead of having the polling places open, like in North Carolina, or putting 3 machines into a early voting place where you've got 1 million people that want to vote. And the lines, like my line, was 2 hours long. The line for Howard when he went to early vote, I think he voted on the first day of early voting, was 3 hours. This is America. Nobody needs to wait 3 hours to vote, okay? Nobody needs to take a week to count ballots. They count them faster than freaking Afghanistan. Got a purple finger? Okay, good for you. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of suppression. But I don't think there's that anything was stolen. I do think that, people who voted third party, you suck. There's something so freaking wrong with you. And I never, ever want to hear you complain. And for the people who didn't vote, bite me. David in Tampa.
Hey. I have loved you since I heard you driving from Roswell, Georgia to downtown Atlanta when I was an architect, just starting out there years ago.
Oh.
And I think you're an awesome, cool chick. Howard's a lucky guy. But, I'm thinking about where all this started. And I think it started at the Foreign Correspondents' Dinner when Barack Obama,
I agree with you.
Donald Trump.
I agree with you. I swear to God. I swear to God, that was the moment in time, I swear. Because Obama, through humor, publicly humiliated Trump for being a birther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think what he's doing now with his cabinet selections, they are the worst of the worst. And he's not stupid. He knows this. I think he's taking revenge on America. I don't think he cares what happens. And I also think he's trying to set up a dynasty. I mean, talk me down.
No, I can't. I can't because I think you're right. I really do think it began at that very moment in time. I think that, when he started to become a birther, he was flirting with it. He was thinking about it. He was testing the water. He's putting his, hairy toe in it. And when the water didn't curdle from the grossness of him, he got publicly humiliated by Obama at that correspondence dinner. And the war was on in his head.
Well, and it's against us too. He knows that she won more popular votes by 2 million.
Well, look, you know what? Nobody thought he won. Not even his camp. That's why they weren't ready for a transition. He didn't think he was winning. He didn't think he would ever win.
I'm tired of Republican administrations coming in and everyone saying, "Oh, they'll implode," which I believe he will.
Yeah, I do.
His administration, these deplorables. This is the basket of deplorables.
I know.
It's just hilarious.
It's very upsetting because these are, as much as we joke around, I want people to understand the awesome power of the U.S. government, the awesome power of it. That the head of the Attorney General has 100,000 people working for him. That's just the Attorney General. I mean, this is so big and so crazy, and it's just absolute lunacy to put all that power into these kinds of people, these immoral, narcissistic, demagogic people. There's something so heinous about it.
Well, when I was waiting to talk to you, I was thinking about Trey Gowdy.
Yeah,
and you mentioned him, and I was like, what is he going to do? Melania's wardrobe. I mean, that guy is so. The whole thing is just so messed up.
It is messed up. It's very messed up.
I'm like
but
I'm
beyond messed up, it's dangerous, and people have to start thinking about what they're going to do.
Right. I'm an architect. I've got my own business, and I've worked hard, and I do high-end residential, big houses, 8, 10,000, 12,000 square feet. And my client voted for fucking Trump. And I can't believe it.
I know.
Because they're worried they're not going to be able to afford 3 houses under a Hillary Clinton presidency. I'm like, she's going to keep it status quo. She's not going to do anything,
Aren't they worried? Aren't they worried about the stock market crashing? Aren't they worried about a government out of control? Whatever their business is that allowed them to. I'm saying whatever their business is that allowed them to become so comfortable or
doctors. Surgeons.
So aren't they worried about getting paid? Aren't they worried about their investment portfolio?
You would think, but that they've watched Fox News, and it's weird. These are smart, cool people. I like a lot of them.
I know.
But man, the minute they start talking about Hillary Clinton, this thing goes on.
Yeah, and I tell you,
I'm a Fox News drone.
Well, you know what? There's a whole combination of things that happened here, okay? There was Fox News with the Benghazi, right? And the email. And like I said at the beginning of the show, when people saw Hillary Clinton, and this is all perception because nobody reads, nobody does. 8% of Americans read a newspaper. You know how sad that is? Okay, so just let's look at it this way. Every time they saw her, she was running from the law. Do you know, every time they saw her, and every time they saw him for 14 years, he was sitting behind a big desk wearing a red tie looking like a CEO, but he's a fraud, right?
Well, I mean, we run Kim Kardashian. She could have probably won too, right?
Absolutely, she could have won. Yes, no question about it. I think Kevin Spacey could win. Swear to God. I think Robin Wright could win. I think she's probably the only woman that could run for president successfully in this country.
Yeah.
Just because of House of Cards. I'm not kidding. The two of them. They could run as president and vice president, and people say, yeah, I'm used to that. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, that's how sick we got. All right, Rich in Denver.
Hey, Randy, how you doing? Always a pleasure to talk to you. It's a lot of things. You're talking about the media. It's just sickening. There was a time in this country, and I'm of the same generation you. I'm an 80s kid, and Walter Cronkite was called the most trusted man in America.
Yeah.
There is no more media in this country anymore, Randy. It's all been rolled into the entertainment divisions, and like you just said, newspaper readership is less than 8% in this country.
Yeah.
And CNN, it's not CNN, it's Corporate News Network. They made $1 billion on this election. Everybody's asleep at the wheel, drunk with power. Nobody gives a flying F about it. And now we got a clown racist in there, a 69-year-old guy running a department, the State that has 40,000 more people than the State Department.
I know.
And I'll stand here and tell you right now, I'll make this prediction, right? You think death, shootings against minorities and blacks and stop and frisk was bad before? I will stand. There won't be one case submitted to the Justice Department for the violation of civil rights, and the police are going to be put into military garb and put.
They already are.
It's going to get 100 times worse under this clown. Yeah. I mean, these guys. I call them worms. They're white old racist men. And I don't. And like you were saying earlier about the evangelical, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I believe they should.
They all got to be sellouts because if they truly care about religion and do unto thy brother, and the grace of God go I, you know. These people just pay this stuff lip service, and it just incenses me, Randy. I can't tell you how sickened, ashamed, and saddened I am to be an American. What are we, a bunch of sadists in this country, too? It's like you warned us about this with Chucklenut, Bush, and now we're going down the same road again.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what this country does? It takes 3 steps forward and 4 steps backwards. That's what it does. Yeah. That's what we do. We're a boom and bust country. We just are. But right now what's happened is after 30 years of people who haven't been able to get ahead, watching the people they thought would never get ahead, they're angry. They're freaking angry. And like I said, every time they saw Hillary Clinton, they saw a criminal. They saw somebody that was running from the law. Because for the last 2 years before her, her actual run for the presidency, she was sitting there testifying in front of Senate committees, accused of everything from murder to, national security violations.
Yeah, travel gate. It's like you said. It's like they've investigated this woman up one side of the wall, across the ceiling, and down the other. Kirk Gowdy said as much, though. We initiated
Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy.
Kurt Gowdy used to test Timex watches. They take a licking and keep on ticking.
we initiated the investigation in Benghazi because her poll numbers were up.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's just sickening. But what worries me even more, Randy, is that we're going to get a Supreme Court clown in there, and it's going to be even worse, with voter rights suppression and redistricting. I mean, this stuff was going on with Reagan. The Supreme Court basically told him to stop caging in the early 80s, and they're still doing it.
I know. It's frightening. This is a bad time, and that's why we have to start thinking about how we want to organize, what we want to accomplish. We need like 2 or 3 goals that we have to accomplish immediately and set about getting that done. 47 after.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. As AFSCME state workers staged informational pickets Thursday, Illinois Republican Governor Bruce Rauner was moving to impose his labor contract terms on state workers. His move follows the Illinois Labor Relations Board declaring that negotiations between the state and AFSCME are at an impasse. Rauner wants to dictate rather than negotiate the working conditions for state workers. AFSCME is urging the governor to return to the bargaining table. AFSCME is appealing the Labor Board's decision. The union believes that Rauner is trying to force a strike so he can take harsher measures against state employee unions in Illinois. AFSCME Council 31 Executive Director Roberta Lynch says the union strongly disagrees with the Labor Board ruling. Lynch says the Illinois Labor Relations Board administrative law judge who heard evidence about the labor talks found that there was no impasse between the state and AFSCME. A classroom lesson plan offered by San Francisco Public Schools tells it like it is about Donald Trump. According to the educator who created it, the lesson says in part that Trump is a racist, sexist man who became president by pandering to a huge racist and sexist base. The Ku Klux Klan agrees about Trump and is planning a North Carolina Trump victory parade. The Loyal White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan says its Cavalcade, December 3rd in North Carolina, will celebrate Trump's victory with a parade. A graphic on the KKK webpage pictured Trump in front of a presidential seal with the words, "Trump's race united my people." Social studies teacher Fakra Shah says she came up with the San Francisco lesson plan. She says students, including African American, Latino, white, Muslim, and LGBTQ students, are all worried about increases in hate crimes since the election. United Educators of San Francisco President Lita Blank says even GOP House Speaker Paul Ryan called Trump's campaign racist and sexist. 28,000 United Airlines workers will get pay raises this week as the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers collective bargaining agreement takes effect. The union says the 5-year deal delivers roughly 30% pay hikes, and United will pay $100 million in lump sum payments. The IAM says the contract also includes a 25% hike in defined benefit pension benefits, stops outsourcing of work currently performed by IAM members, and provides for insourcing of additional work.
Brought to you by the California Teachers Association, 325,000 educators who know quality public schools make a better California for all of us. Brought to you in part by the Alliance for American Manufacturing, working to build coalitions between business, labor, legislators, and activists. Information about our mission to strengthen American manufacturing and rebuild the middle class through smart public policy is available online at americanmanufacturing.org. Information on how California teachers are shaping a stronger future for our kids is online at cta.org.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
He's a former Navy SEAL and a Trump supporter, and he joins us now. Carl, good to see you. So
Thanks for having me, Megan.
You heard the mayor's position, which is, we don't do that kind of thing. We don't create registries based on religion.
Yeah, well, we have in the past. We've done it based on race. We've done it based on religion. We've done it based on region. And the fact is, he also brings it back as like a constitutionality issue. The problem is people outside this country are not protected under the same constitutional rights as we are in America.
So you think it's a good idea, and you don't care that this is some sort of a slippery slope where Muslims may get just lumped into some group where they get put on a registry, and some aggressive law enforcement actor in the future might abuse that list.
Jeff Sessions.
Absolutely. Look, there's always a case for abuse in this thing. But the fundamental problem here is we have a large faction. Look, being a part of the Muslim faith is not a bad thing. And there's 1.6 billion Muslims out there. Most of them are perfectly good people. But the fact is there is a small percentage of people that have chose to align with an extreme ideology within the faith, and they're doing harm. So we would like to keep tabs on it until we can figure out what's going on. Trump has said, look, it's a regional-based thing right now. If they're coming into our country, we need to know who they are, where they are, and what's going on. Because
he's trying to stop. He's trying to stop immigration into the country from countries where there are major terrorist issues, and until we can figure out what's going on. But this seems like something else, which is if you're coming over. I mean, this is what I'm reading. Okay, this is that again, the Kansas Secretary of State, Chris Kobach, who helped write the tough immigration laws in Arizona, said today that Trump's policies advisors are discussing drafting a proposal to reinstate a registry for immigrants from Muslim countries,
Yeah, and perfectly honest, it is legal. They say it'll hold constitutional muster. I know the ACLU is going to challenge it, but I think it'll pass. And we've done it with Iran back a while ago. We did it during World War II with Japanese, which, call it what you will, maybe wrong.
You're not proposing we go back to the days of internment camps, I hope.
No, I'm not proposing that at all, Megan. But what I am saying is that we need to protect America.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that gets people scared, Carl.
Right. But I'm just saying there is precedent for it, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but in this case, I absolutely believe that a regional-based...
You can't be citing Japanese internment camps as precedent for anything the president-elect is going to do.
Look.
Thank you. Even Fox News is like, are you insane? What exactly is wrong with you? All right, Lori in Nashville.
Oh. Hey, Randy.
Hi, Lori.
First time, long time.
Oh,
Thanks
hey.
for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Hey. Woohoo. So just everyone, stay calm. We can do this. Stay vigilant. Donate to ACLU. And my question, what do you think these Trump supporters are going to do, if anything, when they figure out he can't keep his promises? Like no lobbying, no corruption, no job, deportation, the wall. And these guys who voted for Gary Johnson, they might have voted for Trump, who are rolling down the street smoking a joint, and they go to jail. Is this going to change their mind? Are they going to be?
This was exactly the situation when it was Al Gore and George W. And George W. obviously was an illegitimate president. He wasn't duly elected. The Supreme Court chose him, and whatever. So these people that called me up and said, "Oh, Florida, you're too stupid to vote," and they had no idea what they're. And they were rabid too. They were just so nasty. They were rabid, horrible, sore losers. And then they supported Bush. And then 9/11 happened. They blamed Clinton. They said it was Bill Clinton's fault that we got attacked. And then we invaded Afghanistan. Then they started getting a little more quiet. And then all of a sudden, exactly what I said, we were going to go to Iraq because Bush was running to avenge his daddy. I always knew that. I always thought it. And then when we went into Iraq, they watched Shock and Awe. We were all watching that thing together in a bar in West Palm Beach. And that's when people started saying, oh God, this is really happening. Oh damn. And then taxes got lowered in a time of war, and people started getting loans that they couldn't afford, and I mean, all this stuff was and then all of a sudden they pretended, oh, we never were for him, we never liked George Bush, and they'll do the same thing here. They'll say, I didn't vote for Trump. I knew people that did, but I didn't vote for him. I wasn't one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
When he does the tax cuts, do you think he'll be able to slide some to the middle class to kind of keep them duped?
No, I don't. I think that he's going to reduce corporate taxes from 35 to 15%. I think what he's going to try and do is give a repatriation holiday to these corporations that have, a couple $1 trillion offshore. And he's going to try and get them to bring it in for the infrastructure project. And, and I think that's about all he'll get done.
Mm-hmm. With any possibility of getting Merrick Garland in? Or are we fucked there?
No, that's done.
Yeah.
That's done.
So sad day in history, guys. But just stay vigilant. We can do this.
We can do this. We've, like I said, if anybody gets down or depressed or starts to lose, I want you to read and or listen to Maya Angelou read her poem. I swear to God, it does it for me. Still I Rise. I mean, the words to that, somebody needs to sing that. Somebody needs to make that into a song. I mean, they're making Maya Angelou's life into a movie. So why not make it into a song? I mean, something to give people, the spirit that they need to organize this stuff, because our music blows. It's not good. Casey in Kenwood, California.
Hi, Randy. First time, long time.
Hello.
Hello. So I wanted to call you to talk about possibilities to use the ballot to kind of, attack some of the things that are happening here, in our future with the media particularly. I feel like the ballot may be a way that we can, put some standards on our media here, state by state, to at least try to show that, we're attacking these things. And excuse me, I'm a little nervous calling you.
It's okay.
But this is what I feel like we have the power as the people to use, not just our vote, but to actually put things on the ballot. So could we put something on the ballot? I mean, you know better than I. Could we put something on the ballot that would sort of standardize the media or grade the media, much like we do with movies or television or even the food we eat or any of these things?
As a matter of fact, not just the television, okay, not just the cable news and the television, but also the internet. This election was won and lost on the internet. There's no question about it. And Hillary Clinton's team, I tried to tell her, but they just didn't. They didn't get it. They were still in the 90s, and they just didn't understand what was going on the internet. And now, after we did our couple days on fake news, everybody now the New York Book Review is writing a long diatribe about fake news and what needs to be done. So at least there's a conversation now. There are existing laws in this country about propaganda. That said, what these companies, what the Googles and the Facebooks could do is verify who's doing what. So, for instance, this is an opinion show, okay?
Well, I know they have to have an editor. I know that. I know that they're talking about not an editor.
No, not an editor. It should be the burden of the publisher, me. Okay? It should be my burden to show them what I rely on to do the show, whether or not I can, label myself news or entertainment or news.
Editorial opinion.
Or an editorial opinion, right. And there should be different colors for each thing. Like real news, green. You know what I'm saying? I
agree.
Yeah. And if they put the onus on the publisher, they wouldn't ever be accused of censorship. And that's what they're afraid of.
But I'm wondering, is there any way that a citizen could put something on the ballot? Of course, I know you have to get votes.
You don't need a ballot. Everybody's on the Facebook. Everybody's on the Google. Why don't you take a minute, figure out who, like we know Mark Zuckerberg's name, figure out who at Google is the person to write to and say to them, the onus needs to be on the publisher. You need to verify that everything that publisher is representing about their business model is true. End fake news and end it now. Have a great weekend. Subscribe to YouTube, please.